statistics, which I thought was important to the residents, was thefts. Last year, to this date, it was 24 thefts. This year, it's 12. Suspicious persons, last year, to this date, was 18. Year to date, as we stand, is 14. Thefts from motor vehicles, last year, to this date, 19. Year to date, 11. The only increase that you have, which I think is a positive thing, because it means the residents are getting involved, is the calls for service for suspicious vehicles. Last year, up to this date, we had 15 calls for vehicles that were suspicious or you felt that they didn't belong in the community. This year to date, we have 20, so we increased 5. And oftentimes when I speak to the residents of Southern Chester County, it's important for you to understand that we have what we have as it relates to resources. And we do the best that we can to provide you with service. We have to prioritize what's more important versus what's less critical for time response. But I will tell you that what makes the difference is the involvement in the community. You know what cars belong in your development. You know the people who are supposed to be there. If I drive through, I can't really tell you if that car is supposed to be there, but you can. So it's extremely important to police your own, if you will, and let us know what's out of place, because that gives us the competitive edge. And I'll give you a little bit of history when it comes to property crimes, burglaries, and thefts. We're ripe for the picking. And what I mean by that is that property crimes are crimes of chance or opportunity by those that are looking to capitalize. And the great news is that you all have beautiful homes and have great stuff. But that's like a candy store to a bad guy or to a junkie who's looking for their next get high. So it's important that you take the steps to keep your property safe. Many of the cars that we get that are stolen from are unlocked. You essentially have given the opportunity to the bad guy. Many of the residences that are victim to either a burglary or a theft tend to be unlocked. Okay, what's very common, in particular, not just in Chester County, but this whole concept of knocking on the door, seeing if someone is home. When they determine you're not home, they typically then make entry because they recognize no one's home. Our burglars, throughout my career, it's only been 1 or 2 that have been home invasions where it's actually someone home and they know it. Our burglars don't want to get caught. They want to enter homes that are vacant, that are unoccupied, so that they can have their way. All right? And I did a little bit of soul searching for the adjacent township, the Elk Township. I won't go over the particulars, but they also have had a significant decrease in property crimes. And those are the facts. And we from the Avondale Station, take pride in ensuring that our residents get the premium service that we can. But respectfully, we're human as well. So we can't be in 10 different places at 10 different times, but we do our best. So in closing, you see something, you say something. And we encourage you to pick up the phone and call us when something is out of line. All right? If there's a problem with the quality of service that you have, we have unlike any other police department, we have an extremely structured discipline system that empowers the supervision to take swift action to ensure that type of service is dealt with quickly. So we're regular people. Our people do make mistakes from time to time. Sometimes they're not as courteous as they should be. But I will tell you that we do our best collectively to ensure that we give the best based on what we have. So with that said, I'll take any questions.
Could you come, I don't know if you have this statistic with you about response time, because sometimes that's a comment, I have heard, and I was told that in that one in Elk that it was a very quick response.
It was 4 minutes.
Thank you.
From the time we got the initial call. Okay. And I think we had 12 cars in the area within probably 11 minutes. But again, rural communities, sometimes that's a challenge for us.
Right.
Sometimes I may have only one car that's gonna handle 2 townships or 3 townships. So if he or she is tied up on a call for service, I might have to take the adjacent zone car to bring them over for service. But sometimes response time is important, but it's about, not so much about how long it takes us to get there, it's about what you get subsequent to that. Because again, from an emergency perspective, there are times that we need to be other places rather than responding to a call where an individual says, well, I came home and somebody went in my shed and took something. I know it's very important to the resident that we get there timely, but the choice is, if I have somebody at the Walmart with a knife, do I break them away to go talk to a resident about a stolen item? We have to decide, and we prioritize accordingly. But every single township has a trooper that's assigned for the coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, not one trooper per township, but one trooper is always assigned to that coverage area. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 in that particular zone, depending on numbers for a given shift. So we recognize that response time sometimes is not optimum, but based on priority, I guarantee you the emergency calls get responded to quickly. And we're rather fortunate out of Avondale because our station is centrally located. There are some that unfortunately 40 minutes, 45 minutes for an emergency is timely. So we are aware of that and it's ongoing concern. Yes,
Well,
sir.
I have a question. You mentioned the importance of locking the car doors, which I usually do. I always like to do it. What I do, when I leave, I'll lock the door itself. I won't use my key to lock it. Because I was told, I know it's true, you use that, they can find the code. Somebody would have people typically do that.
You know, interestingly enough, I heard the same, and it is true that, you know, it's a microwave. So when you hit your button, it sends a signal, and it's just like with the garage door. And there are folks that, but you have to be in proximity in order to extract that signal in order to program it. I have not heard of any crimes in Chester County throughout my 23-year career that have involved the cloning, if you will, of a key fob that would allow them access. But I have heard that, in fact, that has occurred, but it has not happened here. To my knowledge. Yes, ma'am.
You said you have one car per zone.
Mhm.
You don't mean per township. What is your East Nottingham? What zone are we in? East, west?
You're the western zone. It's called Zone 29.
Okay.
And oftentimes we have, well, Zone 29 comprises the bulk of the western portion. West Nottingham, East Nottingham, Lower Oxford, Elk. Those are the townships that are in Zone 29.
So you've always one car assigned to that.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One, thank you for bringing your information to us this evening. One of the things I think that at least myself is hearing a lot of is not necessarily the actual successful break-ins and or robberies, but a lot of the attempts. And you actually approached that by the way that the suspects are doing it in terms of knocking on doors, going around back and that kind of stuff. I personally know about 4 attempts that happened, 2 in my neighborhood. They were unsuccessful break-ins, but they were attempts, and apparently they're not being counted as part of the facts in which you're bringing to us because they weren't successful break-ins. But I'm hearing a big increase in that. Are you finding that at the barracks as well, that there's a large increase in those? And I agree with you. I don't think they're in terms of looking for confrontation. They're looking for the easy steal, looking for the easy fix. But are you getting a lot more calls in terms of attempts?
I'm not really sure I understand what you mean by attempts. Like, how far did they go? I just need a little more information.
Well, traditionally, if they find out someone's home or something like that, they scatter, they go away. And they tend to get away just enough before somebody comes and gets their license plate number or makes them out with cars or whatever.
Right.
But it's, all of a sudden, the neighbor's seeing someone banging on the door and they're like, that's not it. What are you doing over there? And they take off.
Right. Well, interestingly enough, I mean, I counted those under the suspicious vehicle or suspicious person. But again, if we don't get the call, to say, you know what, there was a guy at my door, something was wrong, it just didn't rub me right. Let us, because you don't have the network of information information, you don't have the ability to run their tag, you don't have the ability to do the things that we can do to flush out or to vet that individual as to whether or not what their intentions were. Because there are some people floating around that don't have nefarious intentions. They're clumsy, there could be salespeople, a host of things. Not everybody is up to no good. But again, if we don't know about it, it's tough for us. But I did count for suspicious vehicles and suspicious persons in the number, but they also, with the exception of suspicious vehicles, have decreased. But again, that's where you all come in. When we get that call, hey, listen, I had somebody at my house, wasn't sure if they were really on point with something. Can you come check them out? And just to kind of give you a backstory on the two that kind of caused an unjust bashing, if you will, of the state police. In the two incidents, and what I'm talking about is social media, if you haven't been aware, there's a lot of information, bad information being shared amongst the residents, not necessarily in East Nottingham, but in Southern Chester County. Most importantly, I just want to summarize, if you allow me just a couple minutes. Those two cases is that there was a woman who was home, and she saw two Hispanic males approaching her residence. She went upstairs, apparently, I don't know what her intentions were at that point. They knocked at, one of them knocked at the door as the other one reportedly starts working their way to the rear. She doesn't answer the door, the other one goes around the back. The victim alleges, at that point she sees one of them handling what she believes is a semi-automatic handgun. So when the two reportedly are in the back, she runs out the front. So unbeknownst to the bad guys, this house is vacant. So they begin their normal, standardized burglary process. Nobody's home, I'm gonna kick the door in, I'm gonna have at it. Simultaneously, down the street, another group of people who are believed to be associated are burglarizing, actively burglarizing. We don't have the context of how they got into the house, but now they're in the house. Dad drives by his daughter's house, takes notice that there's a vehicle in the driveway that doesn't belong. So Dad, rightfully so, goes to investigate. I wonder who's visiting my daughter. At that point, he smartly takes the tag down of this particular minivan. He then has a confrontation with a Hispanic male that obviously doesn't belong, who brandishes a weapon and reportedly puts it in his face and says, I'm gonna kill you. Right or wrong, he runs, and he gets away. He gives us that information. Here's the bad news. It died on the vine with a blue minivan and a tag that was stolen out of Cecil County College just hours prior to. So we got the tag, we tracked the tag down quickly. Within hours, we knew where that tag belonged. We found those people in Maryland, and the tag was stolen off his minivan while he was attending school at Cecil County College. There, ladies and gentlemen, are the facts. So outside of that, so here's what we have. We have a blue minivan, possibly 4 Hispanic males working in concert, and a tag that now is a dead end for us. So where are the clues? And respectfully, it's not TV. We have to go based on what we have, and we ran out of leads. So what did we do? We increased patrols in hopes of locating a blue van with Hispanic males driving around areas that maybe they didn't belong, and to date we've come up empty. But those burglaries are no different than the numbers I gave you, that residents get burglarized. And it's because you have nice things, and you live in rural areas, that they think they can get away with. It's not because we're not trying to investigate them, but burglaries and thefts are, without the evidence, are very, very difficult crimes to solve. So hopefully that answers your question.
And there's been, I've talked to you guys, there's been a large increase in terms of patrol cars in the area, so I don't know if everyone's aware of that, but I am aware of that, so.
Well, I appreciate that your observation, because that is in fact true. At every roll call, we ensure that the zone cars go to their zones. We have other responsibilities along with just general patrolling, but we want to be seen in those communities. We want to make sure that the residents see that we're out there at least making an attempt. But again, we don't know whether or not that car belongs. You do. Any other questions? You on board?
No, we appreciate you coming.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, we have, our Oxford area library is going through a process of building a very large addition to help service the residents of the Oxford area school district. Every year, the library asks us for a donation of $10,000. $10,000 if they ask. What I would like to see the township do is come up with a extra donation to help with their capital expenditure program for the construction of the addition. What I'm proposing is that the township come up with $5,000 minimum to give to the library in 2015, because we did not budget it this year, to help them in their capital campaign.
On that note, Susie, you may not know, but I know we donate every year and other townships do. Do you know what other townships give, donation-wise, or you don't? Okay. Do you think you might be able to look into that before the next meeting?
I think that's true.
Because we do our budget next week. Just to find out, so we have an idea of, you know, our percentage for our population, for other townships, their percentage of our population.
And why is it necessary to fund a library when there's a, I think it's a pretty expensive school over here, with a library in it, the kids are getting educated in. Why spend additional money there on a public library? Isn't there already a library? Isn't there a tremendous expenditure right down here on Waterway
Well,
Road?
the library
That you
is
want
not-
to pay more money for?
A library is not just for
It's
kids.
the same as they're building the new, whatever they call that thing up there, and they're gonna pay, we're gonna be taxed for that thing too, to feed more kids and educate right
the
there
public
on
library-
South Street. You know, how many of these expenditures do you wanna, feel touchy-feely about? Let's donate to the next church down the road who'd like to put a library in their church. Where do you stop, or when do you say enough's enough?
Here's my question to you. The library, the public library,
Mhm.
is not just for kids. The school library is. Public library is for everybody in the public.
Exactly. But with today, the internet, everything's accessible on the
everybody
internet.
has
You can
it.
find anything you want on the internet, yes. So, like I said again,
Oh, thank you.
I say if you want to do it voluntarily, I think it's fabulous. If you'd like to donate, if John would like to take and donate $5,000 out of his pocket, I commend him, for wanting to do it. But don't shove it down my throat because, of what he wants to do, or what you would like to do, or what anybody else would like to do. If there wasn't an expensive school system over here to educate these kids, then I'd say no. But, that's up to you guys. You're gonna shove down our throats whatever you want to.
Okay, well, thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Anybody else, any comments on the library? All right. Well, moving on, we don't have too much on the work session here, so I'm going to see if anybody has anything they'd like to discuss with us on the work session before we start our meeting. Yes, sir.
Ray Johnson, and my question goes to the zoning officer. Do you remember that I came into your office on the last day of July with 2 sign permits? Those permits were filled out on proper forms in relation to what is written in the sign ordinance. We had the forms filled, drawings by dimension, and a check. Do you remember why you refused those?
I asked, I said that I needed what was going to be on the signs. I have to know that to make sure that whatever you're putting on there, the property is zoned for that purpose.
Correct, you did say that.
And you didn't give that to me.
Why should I? It is not